Welcome into Press Box Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles, and with me tonight are Luke Jackson, managing editor of Press Box and PressBoxOnline.com, and the old 0.2%er, Ross Grimsley from his.
It wasn't 2%. It was 0.
It was 0.2%. Okay. Yeah, that's great, man.
Hey.
I used one today. This is a name that Ross, you'll remember this guy. I know Luke won't. It was a Philadelphia Philly who played for the A's. And by the way, if he this is Immaculate Grid. If he's played for the A's, it could be in Kansas City, could be in Philadelphia,
Right.
It could be in Oakland, or it could be in Las Vegas, probably. But the bottom line is, I used a name, a blast out of the past. Do you remember Granny Hamner?
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
Second baseman.
He was a 0.3%er. So you still got him beat by 1/10 of 1%.
Still got his baseball card.
Hey, we are brought to you by our friends at Superbook.com. Now's the time to place your baseball bets and your preseason, well, actually, your regular season football bets with Superbook Sports. Superbook is the most trusted name in Las Vegas, and now you can use promo code StanCharles23 to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they'll match your first bet up to $250 with promo code StanCharles23, all one word with no spaces. Don't miss out this season. Win some money with Superbook Sports and promo code StanCharles23. Visit Superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. We're also brought to you by the Costas Inn, and we'll tell you a little bit more about them down the road on the show tonight. We moved our show from Monday at 4:00 because it was Labor Day, and none of us wanted to work the holiday. And I figured we'd do it on Tuesday, and we'll do it almost like an Oriole pregame show. We can't call it that, but it's kind of like an Oriole pregame show. Ross, I wanted to start with a number of things. First of all, you and your family, you and Bird, are safe down there in the west coast of Florida?
Everything worked out great, Stan. It was obviously a year ago. We had the bigger one that caused a lot more damage, and we were fortunate with that. It went south of us.
Right.
Unfortunate for the people in Fort Myers. This one went north of us, north of Tampa, about an hour and a half, and didn't cause quite the same amount of damage, but it did cause enough to wreak some havoc on them. But we were very fortunate again. It was no damage here, just a lot of rain, but that was much needed in the area. So we were very fortunate again. Thank God.
All right. Well, glad to hear that for the folks in your area, and especially for you guys. Hey, the Orioles made a small move the other day, which when I think about what Mike Elias did, he sold high on Jorge López a year ago, July 29th or 30th last year. He got Cade Povich, who's one of the top pitching prospects in the organization, Yenier Cano, who has been a a saving, like a lifeguard on this pitching staff for much of this season. And now they turn around, they got a third pitcher. I can't even remember his name. He hasn't really surfaced, probably in the lower minor leagues. Luke, if you remember it, shout it out. But they turned around the other day. Things haven't gone especially well for Jorge López in Minneapolis. They traded him about a month before the deadline to Florida in a trade of relievers. They got back Dylan Floro, who was having a lousy year with Miami. So the two of them exchanged pitchers, and Jorge López wasn't doing very well in Miami. And all of a sudden, they waived him, and Mike Elias picked up their best relief pitcher from last year, maybe to replace, at least, maybe it'll be more in the 8th inning or 7th inning, but to replace the loss of Felix Bautista. Your thoughts on that one, Ross?
I think that was a good move. I mean, they had success with him. He struggled a little bit early when he got up, to the big leagues with the Orioles, and they got him to throw. That was the biggest deal, is to throw strikes. He's got plenty of stuff, a good breaking ball. I think he throws a split change of some type. But when he threw the ball over the plate and got ahead and mixed in his secondary pitches, he was very effective. And he led the team in saves, I believe, the 1 year before he got traded. So I think this is great. Bring him back here. He's comfortable. He knows the people. The people know him. The pitching people seem to be able to work their magic on a lot of different guys. And hopefully this is something that they can use, because the bullpen has actually been pretty good the last couple of months compared to last year, where they were wore out a little bit in juggling the starting staff, who's actually done a pretty good job the last 2 months as well. So I think it's a good move, and hopefully he's able to take up where Batista fill in partially, possibly at times there. So I think it's a good move.
Luke, if Batista's healthy, I don't think this gets done. I think manager Mike Elias said, I got a need, and 13 months ago, this guy would have won it in the ninth inning anyway, or eighth inning of games.
Yeah. So I think what really happened here is exactly what you mentioned, that Felix got hurt, and that pushed Cano into the closer role. And Cano was really their main right-on-right relief option before the ninth inning. So if you had like a right, left, right kind of pocket, that's who you would go with either in the seventh inning, eighth inning, whatever. That's who you wanted there. So with Cano now closing, you want another right-on-right relief option. And they've had some other options earlier in the year. We thought that Dylan Tate would be that guy. That never worked out. We thought Michael Givens would be that guy. That never worked out. We thought Brian Baker might be that guy. That didn't really work out. So you go look to the waiver wire, and there's Jorge López, who doesn't have a bunch of money remaining on his salary this year, who is, as Ross mentioned, has had a lot of success in Baltimore. Obviously really enjoys being in Baltimore. Apparently he was thrilled to be claimed by the Orioles, and couldn't wait to get to Arizona. It took him I don't even know if it took him 24 hours to get there. Some guys take the full
Right.
flow, right, to get there. It didn't take him long to get there. And Brandon Hyde threw him right into the fire. And Cano has thrown the past 2 days. So if Brandon Hyde needs 3 outs in the ninth inning tonight, he's probably going to Jorge López. So it's just the ebbs and flows of a baseball season. 10 days ago, if I told you that Jorge López would be, probably the closer for one of a big game tonight, that's the way baseball goes sometimes, man.
Yeah. But I think a very clever move, under the radar move. And again, this is a guy, my read on Jorge López is not about his stuff. It's about his mental toughness. And I don't think he has a great deal of that. So in that case, he needs a very nurturing environment. And I think that's what Brandon Hyde, Chris Holt, and the locker room in Baltimore provided for him. And I think this just may really work. I don't know if it's a long-term thing or not, but I think for the next 7 weeks or so, he could be very instrumental in a run by the Orioles, Ross.
They got some arms in the bullpen now that can throw the ball, and the whole thing is throw the ball over the plate. You got the stuff, just throw strikes. I mean, with Hall doing his thing, he's around the plate. He'd be very effective. Lopez the same way. He's around the plate. We saw it before. And like you said, the comfort level of him being here and him knowing everybody and everybody knowing him, that's going to make a big difference. And that's really going to make him probably relax. Because I do, now that you mentioned, I do remember how he would get flustered and maybe wouldn't show it, but he showed it with the pitching. He'd go harder when he should go off a little bit and, not try to throw the ball through the catcher, just to the catcher. And he would get pumped up pretty good, but they got him to settle down a little bit and start throwing strikes. And that's the thing you got to do.
Luke, you and I know when we acquired Jack Flaherty at the deadline, I think you and I were both fairly excited about that. I thought, I remember Jack Flaherty, best pitcher in the National League, the last 2/3 of 2019. Well, it's now 2023. Haven't been impressed with him at all. And sometimes it's more than the results. It's the body language.
Yeah, and I think I fell into the same exact trap that you did, where we remembered him from the playoffs in 2019 and how electric he was, and how competitive he was in the whole 9 yards. It's not the same guy in terms of stuff, the quality of his stuff. Now he could still bump it up to about 97, but that's not consistent. He's going to be more 92 to 93. And his breaking balls, whether it's his slider or his curveball, have bad tendency to just sort of sit up sometimes. And so he gave up a couple home runs against Arizona the other day. So you're absolutely right. I don't know if anyone's been terribly impressed with Flaherty. He might be a 2 months done guy, like a pure rental. But with Tyler Wells now, I don't know if he's shut down. I don't know what the situation is.
Doesn't look like he's making it back.
Yeah, and so, but going to a 6-man rotation does allow them to stretch out these younger arms and to make sure that they have gas left in the tank come October, because the Orioles aren't going anywhere in October if Kyle Bradish isn't fresh, if Grayson Rodriguez isn't fresh, if Dean Kramer isn't fresh. So those guys got to have some gas in the tank. And hopefully a 6-man rotation down the stretch here allows them to have that.
Ross, I want to get into something that you told me about that you watched on the MLB network, but this will lead into it. You, and I'm not trying to be funny, you were not a stuff pitcher. I mean, you didn't get by on 98, 99. You know, you weren't that, so you knew how to pitch when you got to the big leagues. What's it like when a Matt Harvey, going back 25, 30 years ago, a Frank Tanana, when these guys that are throwers, they're not pitchers yet, and then they suddenly have injury problems that take away their throwability, if you will, and now they got to learn how to pitch. It's really like being undressed sometimes, isn't it?
Well, I mean, when I did come up to the big leagues, I threw hard. Now,
I didn't know that.
I don't remember. I don't know if you remember Don Gullett.
Yeah, sure.
Don Gullett had a power arm, young guy. Me and him, I mean,
you were right in that level?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I did not know that.
Oh yeah, no, and then I learned to change up when I was in Cincinnati, and that developed over the next couple of years. And then I went to Baltimore, where I actually learned to pitch. Yeah, I had seen, I had watched
under Bamberger.
Not so much that. I mean,
okay.
You understand, I had a basis of pitching from my father, and I had the foundation, the mechanics, the delivery, and and I mean, you can't stand out there and try to throw it as hard as you can and expect to hit a spot, consistently.
Ross, real quick, what's your father's? Did he pitch in the big leagues?
Yes, he pitched a month and a half with the White Sox.
With the White Sox. So I can't use him in the immaculate grid because he only played for one team.
Right.
To see if he was a 0.3%er or 0.4%.
He got a month and a half with the White Sox in 1951. But
right.
And I had that going into professional baseball. But then I had Larry Shepard was the pitching coach for the
Reds.
For the Reds, and I had another guy in the minor leagues that was the roving. We didn't have a pitching coach where I was at. And either A ball, the short seam, or AAA, I had Vern Rapp, who was a catcher who played with my dad, was a AAA in Indianapolis. Anyway, long story short, I had a foundation of pitching. I learned to change up in Cincinnati, and as I got older, it became easier. If I'm going to throw, 7, 8, 9 innings, it's easier to change speeds if you're going to, go around the third, fourth time of a batting order. But then that was pitching, and I learned I watched Catfish Hunter, Fergie Jenkins, Tanana when he had the good stuff. But I learned, and I got to the Orioles, and you had Palmer, Cuellar. Cuellar was a big mentor to me.
Yeah.
And watching these guys, and obviously Bamberger, who could point. Well, you're falling off to one side. Just basic stuff that you don't feel a lot of times, and then you start learning that you're doing it and knowing the difference. That's the thing. But trying to throw as hard as you can. That's one of the things that's a big problem. That's what they do now. And that's kind of what you're getting at is the story I saw on MLB Tonight with Dan O'Dowd talking about the epidemic of arm injuries. And the four main topics that he hit was the deliveries now mechanics are terrible. They're falling off their max effort on all their pitches. That's a recipe for the disaster. The only time I ever hurt my arm was the last year I played with the Orioles, trying to throw the ball harder than I was capable of throwing. I did it in spring training against the University of Miami because they beat my ass back in 1975. And I wasn't going to, if I ever face them again, I'm going to shove it. So I get out there and I pump my 85 mile an hour fastball up to 87. And the next day I got up, my elbow was throbbing. And the whole season I was there, I had a sore elbow. I got a cortisone shot in the spring training. Flanagan went to get a shot for his hip. I asked him where he got it. We didn't tell nobody. And I got
just went and got it.
I got a cortisone shot. I iced it after the games and I put it in a whirlpool in the morning. I think Elrod was the only person that knew that I was hurting. And but I was able to pitch, with what I had. And but that was that was trying to throw the ball harder than you're capable of throwing it. And I've seen it happen to many people, and you see it happening now. The arm.
Well, the most recent injury we could talk about is Felix Bautista.
Absolutely.
It looked like he was pitching to a guy that's hitting 115. What was his name, Luke?
I don't know. I forget.
Oh God, so I can't remember it now either. But he was Felix really overthrew that pitch, and
his
that's
arm was so high
Yeah.
that he pushed it that way and strained it. I mean, you see it all the time. But one of the things that we were talking about, the max effort on fastballs and breaking balls. The new pitches, the new pitch they call the sweeper, which is a little league sidearm curveball,
Right,
that was
right.
thrown up, and you barely saw it. But you're trying to throw breaking balls max effort all the time, you're going to have a problem. And that's the other thing. Out of 10 pitches, usually now at the major league level, 8 of them are secondary pitches. So usually you build up arm strength with your fastball. You get your fastball down, then you mix in your breaking pitches usually. But those are several reasons why you have the problems that you have now. And
was there any mention, Ross? Was there any mention to the fact that pitchers don't really run anymore? And that seems counterintuitive, but the strength of the legs.
One of the things that I saw, a pitcher has a bad game. The first thing he does is go in the clubhouse, goes right to the weight room and starts pumping weights. I'm going, that's not your problem. The problem is you can't throw a breaking ball over the plate. That's your problem. Or you don't have command of your fast. That's one of the biggest things is no command of the fastball. And that's one of the biggest problems. But some of the things that were talked about on that, throwing a baseball at full speed is like a 225-pound man doing a one-hand arm stand. If a normal person went out and put the effort into throwing a baseball like a major league pitcher, he would have a spiral fracture of his upper arm. It would, just like Dravecky, he had cancer and that was weak. His just snapped in two,
Yeah.
But the forces are so great, and throwing the ball at the way guys throw it now, you can only throw it so hard. And if your mechanics are not good, and that's one of the big things with Nolan Ryan. A guy got a hold of him when he went to the Angels. Tom Gordon, I think was his name, if I'm not mistaken. And he made the slightest adjustment. You're falling off, your front side is opening up, and you'll never be able to throw the ball consistently for strikes. And so he took that, he worked on that, and the rest is history. Plus, he had a very outstanding delivery. Mechanics were very good. That's the reason he pitched for 40 years or whatever, until he was 47 or something like that. But it was about 8 minutes. MLB Tonight, you can get it on Google, look it up. it's a great, it really says a lot about the situation now with all the injuries in baseball now, mostly pitching, but they've changed the game where you can't touch the catcher, you can't touch the infielders. But no one talks about the pitchers. No one soon as something's brought up about this, crickets. You don't hear nothing. But one of the things I think, the wins aren't important anymore. Complete games aren't important anymore. They don't have to pay the pitchers. I tell you the crazy thing with 18,634 days have been lost by the pitchers. $330 million is gone. That's wasted right there. So
then you have teams doing what the Rays do, where they, in a way, they don't have one closer because they don't want a closer that saves 30 games. They'd rather have 3 or 4 guys that save 12 because they don't have to pay them that much.
No, and that's I guarantee you that has something to do with it. Has to. You find a way to save a buck there. But how does a pitcher negotiate a contract? Well, I averaged 4.5.
I won 7 games.
Really. So you're not going to see many 20-game winners ever again. The whole landscape of the game has changed. But you know what? Attendance is up and people like it. So what do you do?
Luke, what's on your mind tonight?
Less than what's on Ross's mind, I can tell you that. It seemed like he had some things to get off his chest. Yeah, I don't know. Man, it's I can't. I don't know if I can follow that up, Stan. To be honest with you, what do you have on your mind?
I'm pleasantly surprised how much more confident I'm getting in this Oriole team. I'm pretty honest about when I make a mistake on something. At least within a year of making a mistake. Mm-hmm. But I thought Mountcastle was done, finished. It had gotten to his head. And then all of a sudden they go, he's got vertigo. And I was almost non-believing that he had vertigo. And now I'm wondering if he had vertigo for a month prior to that when he couldn't hit the left side of the barn.
He might have.
Because he looks like he looks like the hitter we wanted him to be and the hitter he was when he came up in 2020. And he's really done some damage. And he's been much more disciplined at the plate, which I didn't think he was capable of.
So as long as we're admitting where we were wrong, so early in the year, Stan and I were texting, and Stan said something like the Orioles were in a tight spot in the game, and he texted and he said, I feel pretty good because Danny Kalum's coming in and he's been good. And I was like, I don't know, man. I like this guy throws like 91, 92. I don't know if this is going to last. Well, he's been one of the best left-handed relievers in the American League. And 2 weeks ago or thereabouts, I was sitting off to the side at Camden Yards, the first base side, for a Danny Kalum relief appearance. And the depth that he gets on his breaking balls is amazing to watch from the side. It's almost like for like a right-handed hitter or left-handed hitter for that matter, there's like starting at their face and like dropping down to their knees. It's like the depth that he gets is amazing. And Ross, how as a left-handed pitcher is he able to get the kind of depth on his breaking ball where guys just don't hit him? He's one of those big spin rate guys where he can just really spin the hell out of a breaking ball. How does he do that?
Yeah, I bet his hands are big, bigger than normal, and they're probably strong. Mike Cuellar had the strongest hands I've ever seen, and he could play and catch with him. If he threw a ball and it was a breaking ball or straight, you would, if it was slow, you would reach out and try to catch it before it got there. That is some good arm speed right there. If you could do that play and catch, imagine what a hitter would try to do. But a lot of that is, arm speed, grip. It's just some guys can do it and some guys can't, and you can, things you can do to work on it. But it's to see guys that do that and try to play catch with them or stand up and watch a ball thrown, change up. If you got the arm speed, you get guys out on their front foot, and a lot of times depending on the difference in speed, you get guys on their front foot and they just cannot adjust. And it's it's something you got to work at, but once you get it, it's something else.
Ross, we had one of our writers, and he also hosts the talk show. Glenn Clark wrote a piece, sort of the same piece I might have written, but he beat me to the punch, basically apologizing about being wrong on Ryan Mountcastle this year. Saying, boy, I owe him an apology. Basically, that's it. I remember back in 1985 that I was unmerciful on the radio on WFBR, the flagship station of the Orioles, on Mike Young, the late Mike Young, who just passed away a few months ago. I said, this guy is never going to make it. He's just awful. He can't control the plate discipline and all that. Well, all of a sudden, the next 3 months, he ended up that season with 28 home runs, 85 RBIs, and he was an absolute monster. And I remember apologizing on the air saying I was wrong about this guy, but there was one little problem. I was absolutely right about him, my first take on him. That was the only, and Mike and I became kind of friends. I'm not saying he was like a best buddy, but Mike was a really gentle soul, a nice guy. But we talked about it a little bit, but he was, the next year, we were counting on him to be another Eddie Murray or Cal Ripken.
Right.
And he and Floyd Rayford fell totally flat. How does that happen on certain players?
I tell you what, George Foster, when he came from the Giants to the Reds,
right,
he couldn't hit a breaking ball. He couldn't spell breaking ball. He just had a hell of a time doing it. And some things were done, and it completely changed his approach and the adjustment that he made. And sometimes it could be a mechanical thing. It's a mental thing a lot of times. And once you get mentally whatever you got to do, and with Foster, it was a mental thing. And they did some things that really were amazing and turned him into what he was. And you remember when Eddie first started the season, he struggled some.
Yeah.
And I forget if it was left or right-handed, but then all of a sudden he made the adjustment. And the guys that are able to make the adjustments, and the other teams are going to make adjustments, then you got to make an adjustment. And then it's a back and forth. And then it becomes a game and a game. And that's one of the biggest things. Guys, some guys just can't do it. They can't make it. They get down and they can't ever get out of that hole. And that's just how that makes the difference between a good average and a bad player, poor player.
Hey, let me jump in with a word about the Costas Inn. Over 50 years at the same location, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They've got a really diverse menu. I mean, you want steaks, great. You want chicken, you want salads with seafood on them, with chicken on them. They'll do that. They got great crab soup, great crab cakes. And of course, the Costas Inn has a reputation of being one of the best crab houses in the city of Baltimore or around this area. 410-477-1975 is the number. Tell the Costas Inn folks that Stan the Fan sent you over there. And don't forget to check out their website, CostasInn.com. If you're still a little skittish about going indoors, or you're starting to be now again, they'll have your food ready for you when you come in. You can order it online, pay for it online, and pick it up. You don't even have to get out of your car. That's Costas Inn, one of my favorite places, and the place that Luke, Ross, and I are going to eat some crabs when Ross comes to town. All right, let's finish up. Oriole lineup tonight. Adley Rutschman leads off. Ryan Mountcastle batting second. Anthony Santander is the DH. Austin Hayes is in left field. Gunnar Henderson's playing third base. Jordan Westberg is second base. Right field is Aaron Hicks. Center field tonight, Ryan McKenna. And shortstop, Jorge Mateo. Again, the starting pitcher tonight, Dean Kramer. And Luke and Ross, I don't know how many games you've seen, Ross, but I'll tell you one thing. When this Jordan Westberg is in the field, he is one of the best defenders. Luke, I know you saw that play in the, what was it, the 8th inning last night?
No, it was the 9th inning.
It was the 9th inning. That's right. It was the leadoff in the 9th inning. A ball that looked like Mullins had to be all out coming in for it. And you were going, it doesn't look like he's going to get it. And all of a sudden, Jordan Westberg pulls like a little Willie Mays and reaches out and catches the ball. It's just a sensational play. He turns a really nice double play.
Yeah, and that was one of the best defensive plays by any Oriole this year.
Yeah.
And if that falls in, ball kicks around, you might have a runner at second. It's a 3-run game. Cano probably gets out of it anyway, but it's a lot easier, and Ross could probably speak to this. It's a lot easier to convert a save when you get the leadoff hitter out.
Yeah, really.
A whole
Makes it
lot
a lot
easier.
easier. That was amazing. That catch. I had it on. I was watching the game here, and that was pretty amazing.
And he provides a lot more range at second base than Adam Frazier does at this point of Frazier's career. I think that's fair to say. And Frazier's been pretty beat up this year. I don't know how much of Frazier you'll see this series because they're facing 3 lefty starters. So this might be a really nice time to give Adam a blow and get him ready for some right-hand starters down the line here. And then Ramon Urias, I think, the metrics aren't as kind to Ramon as they were last year when they helped him win a Gold Glove. He seems the same to me at third base as last year. I think he's a really quality third baseman. Brandon thinks he's a really quality third baseman, which is why he runs him out there at that spot. And so, they've got some, and then Gunner's, I think, been really good at short this year. And he's become a better third baseman, and that's difficult to do. And maybe Ross can speak to that. A guy who's trying to play 2 positions at a high level, he's bouncing back and forth so he can make room for Mateo at shortstop against lefties. How hard is that for an infielder to be able to play at a high level at 2 distinctly different positions? Even though they're both on the left side of the infield, they're two totally different positions.
Well, watching Henderson play, I think he can play anywhere and probably do a great job. He's done some things at games I've seen that are just remarkable. He looks like a big leaguer. He looks like he's been there, for several seasons. And but playing, Manny did it. Manny did it. I was in Double-A when I was in Richmond when he was playing shortstop, and he moved. And so I think with the talent these guys have now, those type of players, they can they do it with no problem. It's just an instinct thing. And the plays that Henderson's made, just amazing.
Ross, Luke and I text a lot during a baseball game, and last evening Luke texted me, and I was thinking the same thing. I guess Phil Nevin, in a way, has given up. The way he managed that situation, having that right-handed rookie pitcher, forget his name right now, but pitched to Gunnar Henderson. We both thought, and I'm sure you did down in Bradenton, you're going, he's going to hit a home run here. It was just terrible.
Those guys, Rushman, Henderson, these guys, they get a pitch.
They know what to do with it.
And a hitting count, they're taking a grown man swing. They're not feeling for the ball. They're taking a hack at it.
And, I think that's one of the areas where Gunnar has really grown, because I think early in the season, he was hunting walks a little bit. And now once he gets into those hitters counts, pitchers can't throw him cookies.
No,
they take advantage. And I think Santander is really good about that as well. Yeah. You cannot throw Santander, get me over Cookie in a 3-0 count. He's swinging. He's trying. They're trying to do damage, and they
got a few guys in that lineup that can really. They are so impressive. Watching, and just like I said before, it would not surprise me one bit that they play
in the series. Yeah,
not one bit, because the way the cards are falling, the Dodgers with some a situation out there with one of their pitchers. Tampa Bay is not the team they were with injuries. Texas is going down the tubes. Their bullpen is atrocious, and they're not hitting like
it really looks like it's between us and Houston now.
That in Houston, they haven't been playing great, but they come back after they struggle some. Seattle's a team I think you got to keep an eye on.
They look like I love them about 2-3 weeks ago. I love them. Something's happened. It looks like they may have peaked too soon or something. They have not been playing very well. I think they're winning tonight rather comfortably. Ross, before we go, I wanted to ask you last night, you say you were watching the game.
Yeah.
Did you see the 3-2 pitch to Grichuk by Grayson?
Yes.
What was he trying to? It was just such a nothing pitch.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly it was. It was just obviously not a good spot.
No,
but yeah. But I tell you, that's the first time I've seen him pitch for any length of time.
Yeah, he looked good.
The ball jumps out of his hand. He's eliminated some movement in his delivery, which obviously has helped. I think he could be better command wise with his fastball because he was up in the zone and off the plate a few times. And I think against a better hitting team, they will be more patient and make him throw more strikes. And he's capable of doing that, but his ball jumps out of his hand. I think he's down to 3 pitches now: fastball, curveball, changeup. And I guess his changeup has really improved, but he commands his fastball, and he did it. He was a little inconsistent with it, but he did it a lot better than he was doing it previous.
Yeah,
so that is really good.
The thing I see with him now is he knows he belongs in the big leagues.
Well,
he's just pitching with he's got confidence right now, and that's
a big thing. Yeah. That's a big thing. And you go out and know you can get people out, whereas before he was hoping to get people out.
You got it. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. We'll rejoin each other next Monday at 4, I think. Okay, does that sound like a plan?
Excellent.
All right. I just want to tell you once again, now is the time to place your baseball bets and get ready to place your regular season pro football bets with Superbook Sports, most trusted name in Vegas, Superbook. And now you can use promo code StanCharles23 to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code StanCharles23. That's all one word, no spaces. Doesn't matter whether it's lowercase or uppercase. All right. StanCharles23, Superbook Sports. For Luke Jackson, Ross Grimsley, I'm Stan the Fan, and we'll see you down the road pretty soon. Bye.